We will cover fault finding on two different styles of hearing aid. There's the slim tube hearing aid, which in general is for a milder hearing loss, and the moulded hearing aid. We will cover this moulded hearing aid first. If your hearing aid is working correctly, when you cup the hearing aid in your hands, you should hear a whistling or buzzing noise. We call this sound acoustic feedback. The first thing to check would be the battery. Undo the battery compartment, replace the old battery with a new battery. It's worth noting at this point that sometimes you can get a dud battery in a packet. Once the battery's been replaced, cup the hearing aid in your hands. The hearing aid may take up to 10 seconds to come on. But if you hear the whistling and buzzing, the acoustic feedback, it means the hearing aid is working. So in this case right now, the problem was dead battery. If your hearing aid is still not working after replacing the battery, the next step is to unscrew the tone hook, tubing and mould from the hearing aid, like so. If you replace the battery and cover the hearing aid in your hand and you get no acoustic feedback, that would suggest that the hearing aid is faulty and you will need to get in touch with your audiology department. If your hearing aid is still not working after replacing the battery, the next step is to unscrew the tone hook, tubing and mould from the hearing aid, like so. If we now cover the hearing aid in our hand and get that noise, it means that the problem is somewhere along this pathway here. Now, the next step would be to try the tone hook on its own. So put the tone hook, tubing and mould back on the hearing aid. Take the tubing and mould away from the hearing aid. Cover the hearing aid in your hand. In this case, we have no acoustic feedback, and this is due to a blockage in the tone hook. This can be solved by changing the tone hook to a new tone hook. You can ring your audiology department and they can post a new tone hook out, or you can visit the audiology department to get a new tone hook. If after reattaching the tone hook to the hearing aid and covering it in your hand you get acoustic feedback, this would suggest there's a problem along the tubing here. So what we've done is we've created a simulation of a wax blockage with a little piece of blue tack in the end of the mould here. Okay, so what you can do is you can use a paper clip or a cocktail stick or a needle just to try and remove the blockage from the tubing. Sometimes you get some moisture build up within the tubing, and this can be removed with a puffer. You can get these from the internet or from a hearing aid dispenser, or even camera shops have these because it's often used to remove the dust from the camera lens. Now, if we attach the tubing and mould back onto the hearing aid, and when you attach these, try and get the curve of the hearing aid matching the curve of the mould, like so. If you cover this in your hands, this should now create the acoustic feedback. The slim tube hearing aid can be checked in 2 easy steps. First of all, change the battery. With the new battery in the hearing aid, cup the hearing aid in your hand. If the hearing aid whistles or buzzes, your hearing aid should be working. The hearing aid can take up to 10 seconds to come on. If the hearing aid is still not working after changing the battery, the next step is to change the tube. Before I show you how to do this, you should have been provided with a spare tube by your audiology department, as the tubes only last around 4 months. So if your tube has been on there much longer, it's likely that this is the problem. To change the tube, grab either side of the join where the tubing meets the hearing aid, here. Unscrew the tube in an anti-clockwise motion. Get your new tube, push and turn. It can take a little bit for the thread to grip inside the hearing aid, but continue to turn in a clockwise direction until the tubing discontinues turning. You should now find that your hearing aid is working. If you do not have a spare tube, please contact your audiology department and they will be able to provide you with one. If your hearing aid is still not working after changing the battery and changing the tube, please contact your audiology department.